Hi guys, welcome to the channel talking all things Zelda. I've got a really interesting idea behind today's video, no spoilers as usual, stemming from Aonuma's gameplay update video and the confirmation of the Zonai influence on Tears of the Kingdom. And with the various parts connecting together nicely, I think you'll really enjoy this one. So let's dive straight into the details with an overview of the three parts to this video. Part 1, a quick look at what we know about the Zonai. Part 2, what did the Zonai do all those years ago? And then part 3, the Zonai's fatal mistake. Okay, first up, what do we know about the Zonai? We already knew that they were powerful magic wielders, as confirmed by the Creating a Champion book, or the Masterworks as it was known in Japan. And now, thanks to Aonuma's gameplay update, we know they inhabited the Sky Islands and were advanced enough to build constructs, both defensive and passive. Further, at some point in time, they resided on the surface, shown by the remnants of the Zonai found in the region, where the most substantial of their ruins are located, including the Zonai Temple. Additionally, thanks to various clues in Aonuma's gameplay, we essentially have confirmation that Link's new arm is Zonai, shown by the same green energy emanating from the Zonai constructs, so they truly had some serious power at their disposal, being able to rewind an object's position in time and ascend through solid objects, amongst other things. Before I move on to part 2, there is something that you should keep in the forefront of your mind as we move through the rest of this video, and that is the potential Zonai connection with the Sheikah and why it could be of huge significance to the overall plot and world building in Tears of the Kingdom. The Zonai arm's abilities are similar in nature to those afforded by the Sheikah Slate, in that both can mess around with time and space to varying degrees. Further, the Masterwork states that the Zonai ruins seem to have elements connecting them to the ancient Sheikah shrines. In terms of how the significance of all this plays into Tears of the Kingdom and what we need to be looking at specifically, we should consider the reasoning behind why they are so similar, and I'll elaborate on the importance of this connection to the Sheikah in part 3. But before we get to that, ramping this up with part 2, what did the Zonai do in ages long past, and how does what they did feed into the overarching story of Tears of the Kingdom? Well, we need to look at some particularly interesting commentary in the Masterworks and the importance of these words, and that is the notion that the Zonai are spoken about in hushed whispers. So that's not whispers of a forgotten race faded into legend with the natural progression of time. These words suggest something darker and an underlying hidden knowledge surrounding the Zonai, almost as though the powers that be have tried to suppress all acknowledgement of their existence, and there's a reason they are not mentioned in general conversation anymore. Speaking about the Zonai seems to have become taboo, a controversial conversation topic. I think at the height of their relationship with the Hylian royal family, the Zonai may have acted as advisors and important allies to the Kingdom of Hyrule. But the alternative could be that the Zonai were a simple convenience, a necessary ally to combat the increasingly difficult returns of Ganondorf. If you're interested in digging deeper into the cycles of Ganondorf, my previous video went in depth on this subject, and I'll leave a link in the description. The Zonai are described as savage magic wielders. The word savage implies that their methods may not have been considered normal practice and were potentially not widely accepted within the realm. But if their power was required to combat Ganondorf's threat, could this have been a case of the royal family being prepared to look the other way while it benefited them, the lesser of two evils? I'd imagine that the Zonai leader was formidable, a powerful being, somebody that you would rather have in your court than as an opponent. On the assumption that the Zonai were on good terms with the Hylian royal family, and after discovering that killing Ganondorf was not the optimal solution due to him continually being reborn at a time outside the control of the leaders of Hyrule, I believe that the Zonai offered an alternate solution to the king, and this solution was to keep Ganondorf mummified, unable to move or act. beneath Hyrule Castle, something that the royal family may not have been keen on but went along with in the absence of a better solution. I think, however, it was not necessarily the plan itself that became the issue, rather it was the parts of the plan they left out and what they did not tell the royal family about the methods they would use to seal Ganondorf beneath Hyrule Castle, deliberately concealing their true intentions and the full extent of their plan. Did the Zonai have their own agenda, and did they deceive Hyrule? Which leads me on to part 3. What was the Zonai's fatal mistake? Well, if we contrast earlier Zelda series civilizations to the one 10,000 years previous to the Breath of the Wild era, there is a huge difference in that Hyrule had now become a highly advanced and blossoming civilization. Where had all this power come from? It's a far cry from the Hyrules in the era of myth, such as the kingdoms in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, and while they may have simply become more advanced with the progression of time, the developments seem to extend beyond just improved knowledge, which makes the underlying catalyst for it all much darker. So why exactly are the Zonai spoken about in hushed whispers? Why are they not around anymore, and what was their fatal mistake? Well, in the act of sealing Ganondorf in place, did they push beyond their remit and in fact do something much worse? Did they deceive the Hylian royal family and use their magic to create an exceptionally strong source of power, one that draws from the being that is in possession of the Triforce of Power itself? I've seen others touch upon this subject, but I want to dig into this a little further, following how the updates from our Numa's gameplay video feed into this. What they were doing was essentially using another being to power Hyrule's advancement. Think how, in the Matrix, machines used the energy harvested from humans to power their cities. Then consider that the Sheikah were not originally as advanced as we know them to have been 10,000 years ago. I.e., if we look at the Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess era, where did all this knowledge and power come from? Did the Sheikah learn techniques from the Zonai in order to construct the Sheikah Slate? The blue energy that powers their shrines and towers is not fully explained in Breath of the Wild. What is the source of this power? Is it the power being drawn from Ganondorf himself? But how did the royal family react to this? Well, the important point here is that the Zonai are now completely lost to history. Was what the Zonai did so dark that they were banished? The beginning of their decay into history. They pushed far beyond the boundaries of what was acceptable by harnessing malice for power, which I highly doubt the king of the time would have condoned, noting we would have been in the era of myth here and would have been deeply concerned by. He may even have asked them to reverse their actions, but it was likely too late. This was something that could not easily be undone. So perhaps he cut them off from the kingdom of Hyrule, bringing their long alliance to an end. Although maybe this period of history is darker still, and he had the Zonai destroyed along with all traces of their existence, so that all that remained were whispers and ruins. And it may not have just been the royal family that renounced them. The goddess herself, Hylia, may have banished them from the Sky Islands, which subsequently meant they had to take refuge on the surface. Cut off from the Sky Islands and potentially the source of their power, might this have been the cause of their fall from grace and decay from the passages of history? If we look at this further, what was the rationale behind the king becoming threatened by and consequently banishing the Sheikah 10,000 years ago, following their successful defeat of Calamity Ganon, given their dedication to protecting the royal family throughout history? Well, I suspect the basis upon which this decision was made was that he feared another Zonai incident occurring again. If it was the royal family alone that were aware of what happened to Ganondorf, it could be something that they're deeply ashamed of, while simultaneously being unable to divulge the details to the citizens of Hyrule, due to the outrage it would cause, hence the hushed whispers. The Sheikah might not have known where the true source of power was coming from to allow such advancements. The tapestry contained in the memories in Breath of the Wild was created by the Sheikah, with the Sheikah symbol being visible in the border design, and so told from their perspective as confirmed by the masterworks. It is even Impa who recounts the story, who is Sheikah herself. The Sheikah may therefore have seen their banishment as fear of their technological prowess, when in reality the king was aware of what was really powering their technological evolution, sealed beneath Hyrule Castle, as the knowledge had been passed down within the royal family, much like how we'd imagine the president's secret book works in the US, and the king couldn't therefore in good conscience let it continue any longer, having just seen Calamity Ganon return. In actuality, he probably didn't want the Sheikah to leave, and he may have felt deep regret and guilt for giving this order, but the real fear was leaning into and relying on this power source too much. Might this be another reason Calamity Ganon was able to control the divine beasts in the second attack, if he and Ganondorf were ultimately the power behind them? Could it be darker still? What if, a cruel and final twist, the leader of the Zonai, in an act of revenge following what would have been perceived as the royal family's betrayal, put an enchantment on the Zonai hand, sealing Ganondorf away? Could it slowly be releasing him, the device meant to keep him sealed away, ready to corrupt the chosen hero Link when he touches it? Might the hand have a hidden agenda and even betray Link in the end? Wrapping up then, I'm excited to see how the Zonai are implemented into the story, and the ideas discussed today are just a handful of avenues available to the development team. Whatever they have decided, I have no doubt will have a compelling story in store for us come May the 12th. I'm working on lots of new stuff, so please do help me out and get those notifications on for new uploads. I want this channel to be as interactive as possible, so comment down below to let me know if you agree with anything discussed today. Please also help me out and subscribe, and I'll throw some more awesome content your way soon on all things Zelda. Thanks, have a good one, and catch you next time.